Solly once got pulled over by the police like that.
Cheers. Hello, Andy.
Hey, how are
Lovely
you?
to see you.
And you?
Thank you for coming out. Welcome to the Bristol Loaf. Andy, we met in Europe about 7 years ago, something like that, in Germany. And I've seen you like at quite a few of the European Soul Weekenders, so I'm interested to hear about that. But first, tell me a little bit about how you got into soul music. What was your introduction?
The first time I can remember hearing a soul record was the OJ's Backstabbers. But when I looked at when that came out a few days ago, and I'd have only been about 8 years old, and I certainly know I wasn't. All I can remember is it was different to the Bay City Rollers or Susie Quattro. It was. I didn't know why it was different. It just was. I didn't know it was called soul music. I didn't no idea who the OJ's were and so on. It wasn't until quite a few years later, I guess, that whole mod revival thing at the end of the 70s, early 80s, when Quadrophenia came out. I started off more with the two-tone sort of stuff and drifted into soul.
Yeah.
I was still at school at the time, and our local youth club, we used to have a little music room, and there were two guys in there that were really persistent in asking the youth club, the guy that run the youth club, to let them play some Northern Soul, and that's where I started hearing it.
A lot of people say that sort of Northern Soul really started changing in the 80s.
Yeah.
And being someone who went a lot on the 80s scene, kind of what's your opinions on that? How do you think it changed over that era?
When I first started going, I guess I was really into the 60s stuff, and of course all of the stuff that was played right at the end of Wigan that was really popular was basically the stuff that was being played by lots and lots of people, so that's what I knew. Really, a few months after the Leicester Oddfellas started, Adam Buchanan was playing this sort of more modern stuff. So he'd stepped out of the 60s, and he was playing 70s stuff, and this was right at the beginning of the 80s. So he was playing new releases as well. I mean, he was playing Luther Vandross as a new release, Booker Newbery III. There were about half a dozen DJs that got copies of that before it was actually released in the UK. So it was being played at Soul All-Nighters about 6 weeks before it was ever played on Radio 1. And then the week after it got into the top 20, and Adam said, "Right, I'm not playing it again."
I mean, Northern Soul culture has always been ahead of its time, hasn't it?
So, this whole 60s Mafia thing that was going on at the time as well, that I didn't really get, to be honest, because I was getting more and more into the 70s and 80s stuff for sure.
For the people that might not know what the 60s Mafia was, give them a brief description from your perspective.
We're going to just shut. But then Stafford Top of the World opened, and the guys that were running that were trying to break 60s that hadn't been heard before. So they were new discoveries 60s.
And they called them 60s newies.
They called them 60s newies at the time. They were just newies and 60s newies.
Yeah. Just
I thought it's contradiction in terms. It's 60s newies. Yeah. Come on. The thing is, over the years, people's appreciation, the tempo changed, the style changed, the pattern changed of what's danceable, what's not, sort of thing. So stuff that probably didn't work in the mid 70s, all of a sudden in the early 80s, that's really quite soulful. Yeah. But it wasn't 100 mile an hour stomper like they wanted in the 70s. I think a part of that era, a lot of really soulful records that were never given the chance because they weren't fast enough to dance. Yeah. They weren't as fast as the crowd wanted at the time. Became really popular. I mean, stuff like Soul Brothers Inc., Pyramid.
A classic record now.
I mean, it's really slow, isn't it? But it makes me cry. It makes me cry when I listen to it. It's beautiful.
When you look back at the 80s, the music definitely got a little bit slower and a lot more progressive. I definitely feel like it was where the sort of record collectors started really digging into the rare stuff.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. I mean, and also sort of, the really slow, I mean, I would call them ballads. I mean, there's so many different terms
beat
for
ballads,
it.
yeah.
But beat ballads, I mean, I never got that when I was a kid. I appreciate it now, but it's about the speed I can dance to these days.
You were more of a sort of 70s, you preferred the more funkier side of things.
Absolutely. And so, the 100 Club opened in what is it now? It's 44 years old this year, so yeah, only in 81, my maths are correct. It was all 60s. I really wasn't bothered at the time. I was going in the opposite direction, and there was some great all-nighters. Cleethorpes Winter Gardens was playing all 70s and 80s stuff, new release stuff, new discovery stuff. There was people like Arthur Fenn and Joel Sam and so on were playing some fantastic records that me and my little bunch of friends were really getting into, and we were going there. The Morecambe Pier as well was a fantastic across the board venue. They played everything and they didn't care, which is great.
Yeah,
really.
and I can really see those influences have followed you throughout. You know, you are definitely still a fan of that more progressive, funkier side, and you know, the DJs.
Sure, yeah, absolutely. I guess that's. I know we've certainly. We were certainly at Bamberg together, at the same time, and also at Deep Cliffs in Portugal. I know you and Eve were there. The thing I absolutely love about Bamberg, and I know it's that the main room is fantastic. It's almost like a proper northern do, because it's a lovely dance floor, proper stage and everything. But the little modern room, which is like a sauna,
little sweat box, isn't it?
Fantastic.
Yeah.
That's how it should be. It should be dark and sweaty and yeah.
So you lived in Amsterdam, not Amsterdam. You lived in the Netherlands for about 12 years. But having gone to Northern Soul in the 80s and doing the kind of UK scene, you know, what was some of those differences?
We moved to the Netherlands right at the end of 2010. And at that point, I was going to more soulful house things in the UK for the last sort of 2 or 3 years. But when I moved to the Netherlands, I started looking at where can we go out, and actually the closest club that looked really good to us was in Cologne, and Matt Fox, who I'd never met. Sounds like an English guy, doesn't he, Matt Fox? But I can assure you he's 100% a German guy. He was running this all-nighter in Cologne, and I'd never met the guy before, and I sent him a message saying, look, I'm thinking of driving over from the Netherlands, can I ask you a question? Is it any good?
And what was your first impression?
He said, oh, I'd be really chuffed if you came. Let me know if you come in. I'll put your name on the guest list. So Sally and I we drove to Cologne, only about an hour and a half from where we live. So an easy drive. We had a lovely afternoon around Cologne. And Sally said, I'm not coming to an all-nighter. So she went to bed. I walked to the all-nighter, and sure enough, my name's on the door. I walked in, the place just right at the beginning of the night, so there's not many people in there. I walked in, introduced myself to Matt, and he put his hand in his pocket and pulled out these strip of cloakroom tickets. I said, what are those? Beer tokens, get to the bar. And he just gave me a strip of those. I said to him, do you want a drink? And he turned round and he got the top of his record box flipped over, and it was full of ice with two bottles of vodka in it. He says, I'll be all right.
What a legend!
Yeah,
absolute
legend. So I started going there. I got home in the morning, and Sally said, "What was it like?" I said, fantastic. The great thing was there's nowhere to sit, so you either stood or you danced or you left. Great.
Don't encourage people to sit down.
So that has a habit of getting people up, doesn't it?
Have you had any nightmare journeys?
Touch wood, no, we've not been. Never had an absolute disaster. No, Sally once got pulled over by the police on the way home from Berlin on New Year's Day, and she got fined.
I can see Sally over there. She's like, oh no.
And she got fined. Well, the best part of €1,000.
Oh my God! How come Sally got pulled over?
Well, basically because we're on the Autobahn, and the speed limit restrictions came on. So normally it's fast as you like with him, but then it dropped down, and I'm sort of half asleep in the passenger seat, and I was going a bit fast. And this Mercedes came from behind us, pulled round us, and the lights came on in the back, so the police follow us.
Oh my God! I bet the German police are terrifying.
So we're in just outside Hanover, in a Dutch car, and we're English. So the policewoman said, got out of the car, and she said, do you speak English? Sally said, yeah, we are English. Oh, okay. So she radioed ahead and said, well, we can't take your licence off you. We can only do that with a German licence. So we'll just double the fine instead. So they charged. They fined her about €450 on the spot. And she said to Sally, have you got a card? You've got a card reader in your police card? Oh yes, yes we have. So she fined about €150 on the spot, And then about 2 weeks later, she had a letter for admin charges was about another 350.
Oh my God. Last question for you, Andy. If Northern Soul had to be some kind of hot drink,
Yep.
what would it be?
A hot drink.
Yeah.
Good grief. Double espresso.
Double espresso.
Like that.
Triple espresso, there you go. Andy, thank you so much for coming and talking
Cheers,
with
Lev.
me.
Great stuff.
I hope you've enjoyed the cuppa. The next time we'll have to get a double espresso.
I will do that.
Northern Soul fashion. It's been a pleasure.